welcome. We are back with another Honey's Horror review. This time we are starting A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, of course, as stated before, I'm more so the horror fan, so I'm more well versed with these types of films. She, not so much. You may have seen a few here and there, but this is pretty much her first time experiencing A Nightmare on Elm Street for the first time. And yeah, this one is from 1984. Is directed and created by Wes Craven. Of course, everyone knows him to be like very much a unique horror director. He's really kind of brought something like this to life, which was very unique at the time, considering that we had Halloween and Friday the 13th, because this was the last one to really come out since all those had been done prior. And yeah, I mean, it kind of just took everything by storm and really offering up this new idea, which is, based off a couple of concepts and stuff he's read. Like, it's really kind of based off of like one story where it's like South Asian like immigrant or something like that, where he was having nightmares and then he had like died in his sleep or something like that. And I think he had been talking about someone like coming to get him and stuff, as well as a story of like a hobo was like outside of Wes Craven's room at one point. Like you would stare at him through the window, I think either during the day or night or something like that. And I think you probably had a hat or something similar. So it's kind of like a combination of ideas and things that Wes has read about and experienced himself to kind of create this. And this is a film that was so successful it actually saved New Line Cinema from bankruptcy, and thus the phrasing of the house that Freddy built. So it was a huge deal, and yeah, we'll just jump right into it. Walking away, how do you feel about it?
I thought it was really good. I mean, I'm not particularly scared by these movies. Obviously the whole dream killer concept is different than the other two. And I had made the comment whilst we were watching. I had said that the pacing is actually really good. I mean, I'm not sure about the rest of the movies, but this one for sure, it didn't feel rushed, and it didn't feel like it was taking forever. Mm-hmm. I saw the runtime was an hour and a half. I'm like, wow, okay. It's a really good hour and a half.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, typical horror films, I mean, the standard, it's like a good, solid 90 minutes, and it just depends on, of course, as anything, how creative it is and just the effort that's actually put into it that actually makes that 90 minutes fluid, and it feels like you're really getting an experience out of it. And yeah, I mean, it really does have solid pacing. I mean, you really does feel like you're in and out, but you don't feel like it's too rushed of a thing. Because also, I'm not really a fan of a movie that's like, I mean, even some people say like, oh, a good 80-minute or 85 minutes is good. I'd be like, even if I like really enjoy something, when it feels like it's like less than 90 minutes, it almost feels like, it like
that's
you
like
you
a
want
children's
more.
length movie.
Yeah, but there have been some out there have been like, that's just too short, whatever. But yeah, it does really deliver a lot. Mm-hmm. And of course, this film right here, it's Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. You don't have a lot of screen time with him generally in this film. It's really about like 7 minutes, I think, is if you like actually add up the time that he's in the film.
Yeah, most of it is right at the end.
Yeah. So in general, how did you feel about the performance and some of his shining moments?
Obviously, it's really good. I don't know that I can truly compare it to Michael or Jason, because it's the same guy for all of them. So
yeah, and that's the thing
but
too.
Still, yeah, it's a really creepy and well done character that he brought to life.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I can never compare it to the other two. I mean, yeah, everyone can have their preferences to their style or what they kind of prefer. But as far as like, some people do like contests or whatever, or polls and just say like, oh, who's better than so. I'd be like, I can't really compare
Because they're
Freddy
all
to
good
the
in their
other.
own. They've got their own little subgenres of
But Freddy more
horror.
so though. Freddy is the
Yeah,
most unique because as many, of course, anyone said, and it's obvious that he has a personality. He has so many distinct things about him. He has the sweater, the red and green sweater. He has the hat. He has the glove. He has that personality. There's just so many distinct things, and that's the thing about it too is that, you say it out loud and you didn't have the concept beforehand, like you never actually visually saw it. You would think like, okay, this sweater, this hat, this glove, the not to mention the burnt face is like, can that look good? Like, can you make that work? And sure enough, Wes Craven, with his mind and the way he did it, it's just like all that works. It just seems like it's the most random combination of like ideas, but it all just runs together so well. And you just think like, I mean, you buy into it. You really do.
but that's because of the person behind it.
Yeah, Robert Englund, of
Honestly,
course.
yeah.
Yeah, as well. I mean,
No one else could do it.
yeah, and that's the thing too is that you can always compare and say like technically you could just have anybody be Jason or Michael if you really needed to and maybe get by, but again, it does undermine the certain stunt people who do bring a certain physicality to those things. But
Yeah.
this one, of course, goes that extra mile by actually you have to have the voice and you have to have an actual actor there to execute that to really bring it home.
Yeah, there's not much like crazy stuff that he does, to the best of my knowledge. Not like Jason or Michael type things. It's a mental game. So I mean, besides the one part where he was lit on fire, obviously, unless you're a really good stunt guy and do that yourself, yeah,
Yeah.
that's about it.
Yeah,
Really.
and if you watch it, you can closely tell that. Yeah, it's because the suit is very much like wider, like it's
Puffy,
kind of
yeah.
inflated, and because I mean that's kind of like just the one like not aged well of things over time for older films like this, to where it's always a clear distinction when it's a stunt guy or when it's not. But then again, like I said, I mean what they have to work with at the time, and then what they're dealing with again. You can let that slide, of course, because again, just how much creativity and all the work that really does go into it, and it works. It's in passing for what it is and stuff like that. Because yeah, Robert Englund, he himself isn't a stunt guy or anything, but
Right.
yeah, I mean, it all works. So with because I know, of course, probably you have seen Freddy versus Jason and stuff. So as far as like
Yeah, it's been a minute.
going into this with like the lore and the understanding of like, you know, Freddy's past and all that stuff, how you feel about that in terms of his backstory and the connection with the mom and all that, and
Um, it's honestly been a minute since I've really thought about this series or any of the little details. So, anyway, it yeah, knowing all that, and then seeing how the rest of the series will go, and then when we get to that movie, it ought to be pretty good.
Again, it's an interesting concept that makes it's very dark. I would say even darker than like, of course, Friday 13th especially, but even like Halloween. It's the idea that this guy who's preyed on children and all of this, and then having the parents want to take revenge due to the technicality of his release and everything, and then he comes back as this entity. You don't know how or why necessarily at this point, but knowing that he's going after the children of those people and all of that, again, it's a really unique concept that it just at the time, like a Jaws or something like that, it makes you afraid to want to go to sleep. Like I can only imagine at the time experiencing this when it was completely fresh, and you're like, shit,
Yeah.
I really don't want to go to sleep. Like I don't want to go in the water. I don't want to go to sleep. It's just like I
Yeah.
don't know what to
No,
do.
I totally understand that. If I was watching this as a kid, then I probably would have been scared out of my mind.
So to start off the film, you have this girl who's running through this this boiler room and these like weird hallways and stuff like that, and yeah, so you're just kind of thrown right into her dream and all of that, and you get your first glimpses of Freddy, uh, and to have her wake up, she's just completely just out of it and just like, man, what the hell am I experiencing? She's clearly been tormented by this. Now, how do you feel about like that? Did you feel like that she was maybe the main girl or anything
I don't
like?
know. I think they all had their own little moment because they all had their own like particular thing happen to them. Although the main girl,
Had the
I
Langham
guess
camp?
ish till the end anyway. Um, yeah, that was some pretty unique stuff that happened to each of them.
Yeah. Her death, when it happens, that is definitely one of the more iconic kills in this series and pretty much horror in general. Is that because again, you just like, because it kind of like some other films where it kind of teases you, make you kind of maybe think like, oh, was she the girl? We're kind of following along. If it's the first time you're seeing this and you don't really know. And then again, you get to her sequence where Freddy is chasing after her, and you get some real unique shots there with the stretched out arms and
Yeah, that was really cool, really well done. I was trying to figure out how they
yeah, many
did that.
yeah many would say that the effect is kind of dated, which I can understand. You could kind of tell that may seem a little bit maybe weird, but that's kind of what adds to the weirdness of it is because of how unnatural they look in the and just that shadow and that effect of him like in the alleyway, and
Oh,
that
with the
actually can
arms, yeah.
yeah, that kind of adds to the effect, and with him cutting off the fingers and then the moment where she pulls off the layer of his face and it's just the skull, and then you get to the point where she gets sliced open, she's getting flung all across the room.
That's the part I was talking about.
Yeah, and really how they did that effect is that it was this rotating room. Like they had this room on like this on this device, and it would just basically spin so they could put it like upside down where she can basically just lay there and like I said, just messing with your perception to really film that shot and to execute it, which is again for the time very unique and very innovative.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show like say how clever a guy like Wes Craven is, and the effort that goes into something like this, especially again, it's just a unique time where I feel like horror films, especially during like the 70s and 80s, have the most unique and interesting stories of how they kind of come to be. Because again, if you were to like go back and look at the documentary, which there is one, there's like a 4-hour documentary through like the whole series, which is really fascinating to watch. Just understanding how these certain elements come together to really make these types of films happen. I feel like they have the most interesting stories behind those, and this is one of the ones that's definitely where there's a lot to learn and a lot to kind of understand and appreciate about it. It's such an odd ordeal to be occurring, in that the boyfriend like was framed for all of that, which adds for a unique layer to it, having to deal with the idea of the parents. Because again, with films that parents not listening to the kids, you're like, please just listen to them. But at the same time, it's just kind of like, how the hell do you explain something like this, and just try to get them to understand what the fuck is happening. And so, did you enjoy that element about it, kind of like, where it was set up to make the kids look like they're maybe just crazy, or
Well, I mean, it made sense from that perspective. I mean, we've all been there trying to convince our parents that this or that was going on, or this person was being mean at school or whatever, and they're just like, rub some dirt on it and get over it. So yeah, it worked like that.
yeah.
It worked.
How did you feel about the acting overall from the kids? Did you think they were good, bad, okay, or?
Um, it didn't feel real cheesy or campy, like some of the, B, C, or D rate horror films, or even some of the crummy campers from Jason's camp. So, yeah, I think they all did a good job. I was honestly shocked to find out about Johnny Depp. So that was kind of cool.
Yep. I mean,
he was really good, and I didn't realize that he was the one with one of the, like iconic things that I remember in my head. I can't recall ever seeing this movie all the way through, but the bed sequence, I vaguely remember that.
yeah.
So that whole thing was really cool too.
Yeah, if you had ever even caught a glimpse of that part in any point in time, especially when you're younger, like I said, that will stick with you in some way. You'll be like, oh, I know, I remember that. And yeah, he definitely has one of the most intense deaths. But that's again another moment where it's very unique, where he gets dragged into the bed, which is a very eerie moment in and of itself. But then, so you just have this blood which is clearly more than what any human body, I'm sure, could hold. But it's one of those things to where it plays with your mind. And you just kind of wonder. It's like, what the hell happened to him, particularly in that instance?
Yeah. Then what unfolded when the police got there and all that. Yeah, that was pretty funny. One of those, it shouldn't be funny, but it kind of is.
Well, they kind of have a little bit of a gag where it's like the shot on the outside of the house, when you can hear the one dude's like, you're gonna need a mop, and it's just like,
yeah, that too.
I mean, because you see him getting the stretcher out, and it's like, that is almost like a bit of a sight gag in and of itself. It's just like you see him getting the stretcher, and you're just like, fuck no, no, that's not. Unless you just put the bucket of blood and sit on top of it, you really got nothing there. It's like,
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you'd have to prove that it's all his, though. You gotta test it, but whatever.
Yeah, and it's it's one of those moments again to where you get the adults involved, and you just see them processing it. It's just like,
what does the coroner make of it? I don't know. He's been throwing up.
Which I don't know. Again, that is a funny line, because you kind of have to think okay, does that either make him like a bad coroner, or does that just make him just a fucking normal person? It's just been I ain't seen because no one else is vomiting. Apparently, he's the only one, but it's the coroner, so it's just
go figure.
Is he bad at his job, or is he just no? He has every right to be vomiting.
The dude must have seen
in the toilet right now.
Yeah, that had to have been at the top of the list of the weirdest of things ever that he's seen in his career, and I could totally understand him.
I know, dealing with any crime scene. Yeah, you deal with some stuff, but after that, you're just
nope, done. I quit.
I'm retired, dude. No, fuck that. No, I'm done. It's dude, there's no topping this. I don't know what else I can do. I can't. There's nothing I can do. I guess I'll just be a janitor now. Because if this is what's gonna be, I guess that's what I got left. But John Saxon, who plays the father, he's definitely the seasoned actor here, like Loomis from Halloween. He's the one that kind of also keeps it grounded, being the father and being a bit of an antagonist in the sense, again, having to play on the fact that trying to get him to believe what is happening, and of course trying to be protective and this and that. Did you enjoy him in this one?
Yeah, he since you mentioned the whole Loomis thing, and I'm thinking about it, that's kind of the feel you get. Mm-hmm. Although the mother was the one telling the whole backstory there, so. But no, I totally agree with that. That's exactly what he did, and he did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I recognize him from somewhere. I just can't place it.
No, he's been in so many different things over the years, and yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, he did pass away probably just only a few years ago, not too long ago. I think he was fairly recent, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember, unfortunately.
I would have to look that up again, but even Wes Craven, he actually was a fairly recent passing, just about maybe 3 to 40 years ago, probably. Yeah, unfortunately, he had.
Wes Craven? No, it's been a minute.
Because I think it was
remember
fairly,
that. It's been a minute.
No, I think it was probably been at best maybe about 4 years, I think, something like that.
You're gonna make me look, aren't you?
No, I'm not gonna make you look right now. But yeah, that's unfortunate. It doesn't have a lot of deaths, of course, but it definitely leaves you with some of the most memorable ones. Even as simple as the jail cell with the boyfriend when he gets hung up. And that's the thing too, is that you could obviously Freddy is manipulating the situation, really messing with these kids. It makes it look like he killed himself, getting hung up, because even though that's very simplistic compared to what we've seen in the other ones, it's very eerie because, again, how they shoot it. Because you saw the one shot earlier where he goes through the bars and Nancy is having her nightmare and seeing all of that play out, and then you see it like dragging him up and all of this stuff. Again, it's a very eerie film. And also too, what's interesting is that it plays on your paranoia and like expectations of like, where does the dream begin and end, is like, when is it actually happening, like in the classroom and stuff like that. How you feel about like those shots in the classroom and seeing Tina's body and stuff like that, and all these like eerie shots? And
yeah, that was definitely interesting. I kind of feel bad for the other people when she like woke up out of that, because they're just looking at her like, girl, you crazy.
well,
Yeah,
if you've seen the shit
the
I've
blood
seen.
and stuff, and her in the bag and everything. It's yeah.
Yeah,
They did a good job.
Yeah, and one of the fun lines there is that she bumps into like the hall monitor, and she got like the Freddy sweater on stuff. Yeah, and she's like, "Where's your pass?" And then she goes, "Screw your pass." That's kind of like a well retorted line from fans and stuff, which is a fun little moment there. And fun fact, Lynn Shay, she's actually the teacher. If she's actually been in various other like horror films, like more recently she's been in like what is it, the Insidious series and stuff like that. And she's actually sisters of Bob Shay, who is actually the one who worked for New Line, who produced it and stuff, and kind of yeah, so a little factoid there. Now when it gets towards the end, and Nancy is looking to defend herself, as many would say, it becomes very Home Alone-esque, because she kind of goes very trap heavy and learns the idea that,
Well, she read that book.
yeah.
Duh.
Which is more than what Kevin McAllister did. I mean, he just pulled that stuff out of his ass and just started making stuff. I don't think he even read a damn thing. And what's interesting too is that when you go to the one scene like where she was like with that dream doctor and like she was asleep and all that stuff, they were doing the test. And then that's of course where you learn, when she pulls out the hat, that if you're actually like holding on to something within the dream, you can actually bring it back with you when you wake up. And so she uses that against Freddy to pull him back into the real world. Now, as far as that, you think that's an interesting idea, like being able to do such a thing like that? And
Yeah, because imagine all the things you can bring back with you from all the weird kinds of dreams. Heck, you can dream about holding $1 million and bring it back and hope that it's true.
That's interesting, because you know
So,
what?
yeah.
You know what? In a better world within this film, it's just like, you realize that these kids discover this or something, and if they live to tell the tale, it's just like, why the fuck don't I just like, if I dream about this shit, can I not just do that? Or is it maybe just Freddy, and maybe when he forms his nightmares is where the magic shit is more or less kind of to where I can do this?
Okay.
Or
Well, here's the concept then. Then have a dream about Freddy, but, you're at a bank or whatever, and then, grab the money, grab him, and wake up, and there you go. You've got money.
that might take some training though, because like I said,
See?
Freddy's always dragging your ass around and doing
Hey,
his
I'm
own
just
shit.
saying.
It is an interesting point. Maybe
See?
They haven't explored that yet, so I don't fucking know. So yeah, I mean, so she eventually pulls him out, and it kind of teases you a little bit because she pulls out the little those other like the flower bed stuff, and then so you don't know if she really got Freddy or not, and then he jumps out from behind the bed and scares her and stuff, and of course that's when she starts fucking him up throughout the house and everything. And then At least to the point where, of course, she sets them on fire downstairs, which you said it'd be like, well, damn, just like set the whole house on fire. Which, in that situation, I'd be like, fuck it. I mean, like, no, I'm taking them down with me. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the whole thing didn't just catch in that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, she's trying to yell for her dad, and the stupid sergeant guy's like, derp, I'm just going to stand here.
Now, that was one of the moments, especially where it's just like, okay, now you're just being the stupid adult who just, like, be like, oh, it's okay. You know, I'm screaming bloody murder over here. Be like, no, it's fine. Be like, oh, I wonder if I should go get the sheriff. It's just,
Yeah,
no
dude.
shit, dude. No
Yeah.
shit. Oh, man, you gotta love it. You just gotta love it. Very obvious that is also where he starts to feel pain because he doesn't have his powers and whatnot. So he's very much vulnerable. And then, so yeah, the dad eventually does come over, and then they manage to go up to the bedroom at one point and then see that the mom has been attacked by Freddy while he's still on fire and stuff like that. He puts out the fire and then uncovers, and then she's just like a skeleton just kind of being sucked away into the bed. And that's where it kind of gets a little bit, maybe a little bit confused. Like, if you were to like truly think about it, it's like, what was actually exactly happening there as far as the magic and what was, you know, what was kind of occurring. But how'd you feel about that moment and what was happening?
I thought it was weird, and I was trying to figure out what was really going on there. I mean, I totally get, you know, because she was part of, you know, the people that originally got him, and I don't know, it was kind of weird.
Yeah, it's a little confusing as though again 100% what is, you know, the rules of the situation, but I mean, but it makes for still an interesting moment in the movie. And then of course that's when the dad walks out, and then he reemerges from the bed, and then that's when Nancy realizes, just like, you know what? All I have to do is just sit there and just not be afraid of you, and just sit there and just act like you're not real, you're nothing. And then, of course, that's when he just, you know, goes at her and just kind of disappears. And then she emerges from the bedroom, and then it's a new day. It's all bright and sunny. And then everyone appears to be back. And, of course, she goes up to the car. The hood that comes up, very reminiscent of his sweater. It's red and green. And then she's freaking out. The kids are freaking out. She's driving away. The mom's all like, oh, you know, bye, kids. And then, bam, mom gets pulled through the door. Dark ending for what seemed like a happy ending. How'd you feel about all of that playing out?
I thought something weird was going on. I mean, I totally would have thought that Freddy would have been a weird guy if he had just kind of been like, yep, okay, fine, you can have your people back. So yeah, it was really weird, but I guess it worked, you know, to try and obviously leave it open for more to happen down the road. You know, for Freddy still being around, he's still going to terrorize people.
Yeah, it's one of those very ambiguous endings to where it seems like it really could have gone like either way. And Wes Craven's original intent was for it to actually like be the happy ending, and for it to like be a new day and everything's kind of like back to normal. That was his intent, but of course Bob Shea and like the New Line, they were just like, no, we gotta give a little something here to, you know, to do sequels, because that's typically how it goes. And it's like, had to come to the compromise to where it's like, okay, you know, screw it. I have to go ahead and make it appear that it's not over. Freddy is still very much alive and just doing that. And yeah, it's one of those things to where, you know, especially with a lot of these films, even the better ones and the originals and stuff like that, to where they just don't have clear-cut endings, where some things are just like, you know, not fully like understandable as to what exactly happened.
Ends are
and
tied up.
Like, it could have been a twist ending, like I get that, but also too it's just like, oh well, again, it's where even like I said before, where it's kind of like you don't really know where the dream begins and ends, and this ending especially, it's very hard to understand. It's like, where did it end? Where did it begin? Like, how much, like, did they die? Did they live? What happened exactly?
Yeah, it was
leaves
it
up.
was weird because
Yeah.
of the sunny with the fog, because it looked like something was on fire, you know?
Yeah.
With that fog, or so I'm to understand. So
Yeah, like it was almost too
yeah,
perfect. It seemed.
yeah, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things to where it would have made sense if it was more so like one way or the other, instead of kind of like, it's like happy, but then it's not happy and stuff. And weird effect of the mom going through. If you pay close enough attention, you can see like the neck bend, and it's like a
Yeah.
blow up doll type of thing. Many people will point to that. Yeah, it's very odd, but also at the same time too, considering again some of the earlier effects, it kind of makes it eerie and weird in its own way to some extent, for me at least. But yeah, I mean that's the ending. Overall, how'd you feel?
Well, obviously, it's a good movie. I suppose I look forward to the rest of them. It's New Line. And knowing what they did prior to poor Jason, that doesn't make me very happy to look forward to, any of the other ones. But I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting series. Like it certainly has its ups and downs, that's for sure. But yeah, we'll get there. I will say though, the second one, it's a particularly unique case. I'm gonna be curious to see. No, it may you may
When you say
like
that, it
No,
means it's bad.
it's not. No. I mean, it kind of it has some people split. I will say that. It's we'll get there, but it's an interesting one. I'll say that. It's not too outlandish. I will. It's not like anything like
Manhattan.
Jason Goes to Hell. No, not quite. It's a debate. It's a debated film
Okay.
for certain reasons, but we'll get to that. But anyway, yeah, it's a solid film. I still say it's overall it's a 5 out of 5. It delivered, like I said, yeah, some things are a little outdated, but that's just the nature of it. But again, it's for its time, for what it was, what it delivers, and how it still holds up. I mean, it's a hell of a horror film. It's a staple for a reason, and it will remain that way, absolutely. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed our review of A Nightmare on Elm Street. We will be back with A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.